You wake up in suburban Georgia expecting another quiet morning. Coffee brewing, kids catching the school bus, neighbors walking their dogs. Everything calm, everything normal. But as the sun rises, dozens of unmarked SUVs roll through the streets. Black-clad agents step out with rifles pressed against armored vests. And in one coordinated sweep, the FBI shuts down something nobody in this quiet southern town ever imagined existed. A full-scale, $410 million Chinese drug-smuggling hub, hidden in plain sight. This wasn't a lab in the woods. This wasn't some dilapidated trailer pumping out narcotics. This was a highly organized, multi-property operation run with chilling precision, right in the middle of a peaceful American suburb. For months, agents didn't know what they were looking at. And that's exactly how the operation survived for so long. Part 1. The first warning sign. It began with a single overdose in a small Georgia county. A 19-year-old college student, good grades, no criminal background, found dead with a pill in his pocket that lab tests identified as fentanyl, but with a chemical signature the DEA had never seen before. That signature didn't match Mexican labs, didn't match domestic copycats, didn't match anything in the DEA's database. A ghost source, a new pipeline. Something was slipping into the U.S. supply chain under the radar. At first, local detectives thought it was an isolated counterfeit pill. But 3 weeks later, 3 more people turned up dead in different counties, with the exact same chemical fingerprint. This wasn't a random batch. This was industrial. And someone was moving it with surgical precision. Part 2. The anonymous tip that changed everything. One night, a 911 operator received a shaky call from a warehouse worker on the outskirts of Atlanta. There's something here that isn't right. Boxes coming in at 3 a.m. No labels. People speaking Mandarin. Nobody talks. Nobody signs anything. He hung up before giving his name. The FBI traced the number. Disposable burner phone. Signal pinged once, then disappeared forever. But the tip was enough. A surveillance team was deployed near the warehouse listed in the call. They expected to find stolen electronics, counterfeit goods, maybe illegal tobacco. They weren't prepared for what they stumbled into. Part 3. The warehouse that didn't make sense. The facility was registered as an import distribution center, owned by a shell corporation tied to another shell corporation, tied to an address in Hong Kong that didn't exist. Red flag after red flag. But nothing inside the building actually broke the law, at least not at first glance. It was immaculate. Organized. Clean. Almost too clean. Pallets stacked to the ceiling with plastic packaging. Industrial-sized pill presses. Sealers. Drying racks. Chemical storage containers labeled only in Mandarin. Everything you'd expect from a legal supplement manufacturer. Except for one thing. There was no product. No vitamins. No powders. No packaging slips. Nothing. Just equipment. Untouched and used. As if someone was preparing for something massive. And then surveillance teams noticed something else. No trucks ever left the warehouse. Only small vans. A $5 million facility, moving in quantities small enough to fit in the back of a minivan? That was the first clue. The warehouse wasn't the hub. It was the camouflage. The real operation was elsewhere. Part 4. The hidden houses. Over 6 weeks, agents followed the vans. The routes made no sense. Middle-class neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs, single-family homes with fresh paint, trimmed lawns, and rental signs on the porch. Empty houses, but with astronomical electricity usage. Rent paid in cash. No garbage put out for collection. Windows blacked out from the inside. To the neighbors, they were Airbnbs or quiet rentals. But when FBI thermal imaging drones passed overhead, the houses lit up like furnaces. Something inside was running 24/7. It wasn't until a USPS driver reported being told never approach the porch of one of the houses that agents finally made their move. When tactical teams breached the first property, the truth hit them instantly. The biggest Chinese-run drug processing operation ever found in the state of Georgia. Inside each house, rows of chemical barrels smuggled in through the warehouse. Industrial mixers, heat lamps, drying racks, vacuum-sealed packaging, encrypted phones, schedules written exclusively in Mandarin, and above all, thousands of pounds of precursor chemicals, all scheduled to ship back out disguised as tea, herbal supplements, and nutrition powders. This wasn't a local operation. It was a node in a global machine. a machine worth over $410 million in product flow. Part 5. The Command Center. It wasn't until they raided the fourth property that agents discovered the command hub. Inside, they found encrypted laptops, router-based VPN tunnels, forged corporate documents, shipping manifests, and the smoking gun, a live communication terminal to Fujian province in China. This wasn't some amateur crew trying their luck. This was a fully integrated supply chain coordinating directly with a criminal syndicate across the Pacific. Money laundering, drug distribution, chemical transport, logistics, fake IDs, shell businesses, offshore accounts, all run with precision. And the leader? Not even in the country. He was directing everything remotely, as if Georgia was just one branch office among dozens. Part 6. The Overnight Takedown. Once the scale became clear, the FBI requested an emergency federal warrant. At 2:03 a.m., it was approved. By 2:30 a.m., 9 tactical teams deployed across 3 counties. At 3:15 a.m., synchronized raids began. Doors smashed open. Flashbangs filled dark hallways. Agents stormed the properties while drones circled above. In under 11 minutes, the entire network collapsed. 17 suspects arrested. 9 homes seized. 3 warehouses locked down. 15,000 pounds of precursor chemicals recovered. 1 million counterfeit pills confiscated. Dozens of encrypted devices seized. Within hours, the story leaked. What people thought were quiet, normal suburban homes were actually the heart of a multi-million-dollar drug machine. And the scariest part? Most of the people operating inside the houses weren't criminals. They were victims. Part 7. The Hidden Exploitation. Agents discovered that many of the workers were Chinese nationals lured with promises of legal jobs, then trafficked into a system they couldn't escape. Passports taken, phones confiscated, locked inside the houses, forced to work around hazardous chemicals without protection. Foreign workers controlled by overseas syndicates, right inside American neighborhoods. It wasn't just a drug operation. It was human exploitation hidden inside the suburbs. This elevated the case from drug trafficking to transnational organized crime to a federal counter-exploitation emergency. Part 8. The Global Connection. After the arrests, analysts pieced the network together. The chemicals came from ports in Guangdong and Fujian. They were shipped to Savannah, Georgia, disguised as industrial solvents. The shell companies operating the warehouse were linked to accounts in Macau. Money was laundered through cryptocurrencies and casino transactions. Distribution channels spread across Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Georgia wasn't the target. It was the staging ground. According to the FBI's official report, this network intended to establish the largest east-to-southeast drug corridor in U.S. history. A corridor designed not to be detected, because it didn't rely on the cartel smuggling routes the DEA is used to. This was a parallel system, one built quietly, patiently, with industrial discipline. A new kind of threat. Part 9. Why the operation succeeded for so long. It wasn't the chemicals. It wasn't the houses. It wasn't even the organization. It was the invisibility. These weren't street dealers, not gang members, not suspicious vehicles. The network blended into the safest, quietest communities. HOA neighborhoods, townhouse developments, former Airbnb properties, rental homes and cul-de-sacs, places where cops rarely patrol, places where crime feels impossible. That invisibility bought them time. Years, potentially. If the overdose pattern hadn't exposed the chemical signature, this entire operation might still be running right now. Part 10. The Aftermath. The morning after the raids, residents stood outside their homes in disbelief. They had lived next to a $410 million narcotics hub and never knew. The front lawns always looked perfect. Trash bins empty. Deliveries at odd hours, but nothing alarming. It all blended into the background. People realized something chilling. Modern organized crime doesn't look like crime anymore. It looks like silence. It looks like a rental house. It looks like a warehouse with clean floors. It looks like nothing at all. And that's what makes it dangerous. Part 11. The FBI's public statement. At the press conference, the FBI director stepped up to the podium. This wasn't a drug bust. It was the dismantling of a transnational pipeline. A pipeline that exploited workers, poisoned communities, and operated with the discipline of a multinational corporation. The DEA called it the most sophisticated Chinese-based narcotic operation uncovered in Georgia's history. And analysts believe it's only one node in a much larger network spreading across the southeast. The syndicate behind it is still active overseas, and they will rebuild somewhere else, some other quiet neighborhood. Because that's how global narcotics work now, not through brute force, but through invisibility. Part 12, the final reality. The $410 million figure isn't just the value of the drugs. It's the value of the threat. A network that can infiltrate American suburbs this quietly suggests a level of sophistication far beyond what most people realize. This wasn't a cartel. It wasn't a gang. It wasn't a street-level crew. It was a multinational criminal enterprise using the U.S. as a processing facility. And the saddest part? It took 4 deaths, for kids, for anyone to even notice. If that overdose signature never appeared, this empire would still be operating today, scaling, expanding, strengthening, hidden in plain sight. Because the new frontier of criminal syndicates is not violence, it's invisibility. And Georgia just learned that lesson the hard way.